I'm Sally Russell. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of HIT Talks, Welcome to Helsingborg, a series of podcasts in English designed to demystify the City of Helsingborg for its international residents. In this episode, we'll be talking to Soraya Axelsson, Project Manager of H22, to ask her, what's H22 all about? Hi Soraya, thank you for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Well, I've really been looking forward to interviewing you because there's so much happening with H22, and we'd really like to spread the word and help people to understand what it means for Helsingborg. So first of all, please can you tell us what is H22 and why is it so important for Helsingborg?
Yeah, so H22, it's the City of Helsingborg's big investment in the welfare and the smart and sustainable city for the future. We, along with a whole lot of other cities in both Sweden and abroad, we have quite big challenges ahead of us that we need to work with. Challenges that with the changing demographic, with the young people and elderly people that are increasing, but the people that are actually working and paying tax are decreasing. So we know that we will have less money in the future or less resources in the future to deliver the same or better service than we do today. At the same time, we also know that the expectations on a city service is going up. So we know that we need to deliver much better service in the future, but we also know that we won't have the same resources as we have today. We have also climate changes. We need to work together with cities near and far to handle this. We need to make sure that people in the shade of the pandemic will have work, that the companies can rebuild. We have to work with integration and so on and so on. There are many, many challenges. And as a city, there are different ways to cope with these challenges. One way is to raise the taxes so that we can make sure that we get more money into the system, but that's not a way for Helsingborg to go. Another way to cope with those challenges is to streamline the way we do things and try to be more effective in our work. But the thing is that we haven't done that for quite a long time. So we can't expect that the results will be radical or will actually be enough. And then there's the third way to go, and that is to lower the expectations and say, okay, so you had good service yesterday. We won't provide you with the same service level tomorrow. But in Helsingborg, that's not either a way to go. So in Helsingborg, we have politicians that are brave and that want to be in the forefront and have said that we need to use innovation. We need to work with new radical changes and new radical initiatives to be able to provide a future welfare and to develop a smart, thoughtful, and sustainable city for the future. So this is H22. And to actually be a bit more concrete, we can say that the H22 is divided in two parts. One part is about how can we actually start to work with innovation as our default way of working. So we need to build an innovation ecosystem in our city. So it's not only the municipal organization, it's also the companies, the associations, the citizens that needs to be a part of this, and also the academia. The other part of the H22 is what we call the City Expo. And the City Expo, most people think of it as the event in 2022. We will have a 35-day long City Expo. It will be magic. It will be interesting. It will be sparking. But it's also the way towards the City Expo and the time after the City Expo towards our city vision. So what we're doing within the City Expo project is that we're actually doing three things. So first of all, we know that if we want to develop our city, we need to learn from others, and we need to learn from others all over the world. So one thing is putting Helsingborg in the context of a global context. So we're trying to find new partnerships with companies abroad, with cities abroad, and with organizations abroad, like the EU or FN or OECD, those kind of organizations that are important for the city development. That is one part. The second part is that we're trying to develop new type of partnerships that is not based on us buying services from companies and organizations, rather that we are working together with challenges that we can see. If we work on them together, we can create a result that the city benefits from, but also the organization. So that's the second thing we're working with. And the third thing we're working with is the City Expo. So this is H22. It's a huge investment in welfare, in innovation, and in urban development.
It is, isn't it? It's absolutely enormous. It does seem to be really very wide-ranging and quite remarkable. So where is H22 actually based at the moment?
Yeah, so the H22 team is based in Helsingborg at HBG Works, which is our municipal accelerator, where we try to work with bringing ideas to life. So it's an innovation hub in the city center. But the H22 team, I have a core team we're about 20 people today, but we work with the whole organization with 14,000 people in our city organization in one or another way are involved or will be involved in the H22 investment. So this is not a one team working on it, it's the whole organization. I usually tend to say that the H22 investment is changing our DNA. It's a new way of working. It's a new way of approaching things. So this is not something a small team can do. This is something that needs to be going through the whole organization.
Yeah. So I guess everything that you're doing is sort of affecting how all the employees in Helsingborg start work then.
Yeah, both the employees, but also the citizens, because the citizens is the key in this. Because we're doing this because we want the quality of life in Helsingborg to be even better. We have a beautiful city. We have many things that attracts people to come visit us, to put their businesses here, to study here, and so on. But in the end, the most important thing is that we are developing our city for the people that live and work here. So the H22, we are also trying to work hard with involving citizens and associations that are the civil society in our city, both in the process, but also in the expo that is coming up.
Okay, so how would you say then that H22 benefits the ordinary person living in Helsingborg? And also, how can they get engaged?
So if we start on the question on how this actually will affect the ordinary citizen in Helsingborg, in our work with developing new innovations or trying out new innovation initiatives, the core focus is to develop the welfare. So we ask ourselves questions like, what is the future school like? How is the future elderly care? In what way can we use technology to make the elderly care more adapted to the needs from our elderly? How can we develop new way of working that is not based on technological development? So it doesn't need to be digitized or something like that. It's as important to try out new ways of working that are not based on tech. We try to find out how can the city be more green? How can we work with connecting the water to the city and so on? So the thing is that all the results from our innovation initiatives, we want them to make the life in the city better. So that's the way we work with this. And then if we go to the expo part, of course, this is a city expo for the citizens in Helsingborg as well. It's for visitors coming from all over the world. But we want these 35 days to be a reason to stay at home, to see the city from a new perspective, to be able to test new things, to experience new things, to just have a walk in the city and feel like, oh, I love Helsingborg. It has so many qualities. So the City Expo is not only for businesses or industries. It's not a closed conference. It is a way of activating the city. So I would say that the citizen is in the center of everything we do. What we need to be better on from now and forward is to talk about how innovation initiative is connected to the H22, because we invite the citizens to be a part of our innovation initiatives by testing out, by trying out, by giving their feedback on different things. And usually we talk about the initiative, but we don't talk about how is that one connected to the H22. So let me give you an example on how we work with engaging citizens. One of my favorite initiatives is something we call the Children's H22. So we're building the future city for our children, right? So we need to engage them from the beginning. They need to be able to think about the city, to also to be able to give their thoughts, so that we actually can take their thoughts with us when we're developing the city. So we have this fantastic teacher in one of our schools that said, I want to start an initiative called the Children's H22. So what she has done is that she has been working with from F class till 3 at that school in talking about how do we develop our city. They have been making small films, small movies. You can see them on YouTube if you search on Barnens H22, where they tell their side of what we need to think about when developing our city. And then these classes, they are putting out the challenge to all schools in Helsingborg and say, come join us, be a part of developing the city. And then they will create a big exhibition, maybe in Lego, maybe in some other way, where they will give their picture of how should Helsingborg develop to the future.
Lovely.
Yeah, so
that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, gosh, so lots going on basically. And I think the website has got an awful lot of information on it, hasn't it? So people can also go there and perhaps see lots of contact details as well. So people can always get in touch that way if they've got an idea or they want to find out a little bit more, I suppose. Yeah.
And there's also a page where we list different ways to get engaged. So if you want to be a test pilot, or if you want to be an ambassador, or if you want to, if you have an idea that you want to do by yourself, but you need funding and so on. So there is a page called Get Engaged where you can find information.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. And I also wanted to ask you about the H22 summits, because I've attended both. One obviously was a physical summit, which was fantastic, so many different people there. And the other one was digital, which actually I thought was amazing, because the way that the whole website was set up, and you felt as if you were literally walking into a conference centre and then going into these different rooms and watching different speakers, was brilliant. So yeah, well done on that. I thought that was wonderful. But I was quite interested, and I thought it might be good for our audience to hear as well, because you've had guest speakers from many different countries. So I just wondered if you wanted to tell us something about perhaps the cities or some of the institutions that have contributed to the summit so far.
Yeah, of course. So the H22 Summit is our yearly event. It's a smart city conference. If you ask me, it's the best one there is in Sweden. But it's actually a platform for both for us to learn from others, but also a way for us to spread our knowledge. So what we have done is that we try to build this summit with speakers from all over the world that can focus on different themes. So this year we had a big focus on co-creation. How can we actually develop the city together over organizations and sectors and so on? So we had speakers from like MIT, the Sensible City Lab, talking about how they use data to actually develop cities all over the world. We had speakers from the EU, from the UN, talking about how cities should and need to collaborate to create the future together. Last year, we had speakers from Amsterdam, which is one of the former iCapital, European capital of innovation. We have speakers from, but basically from different companies, cities, and organizations that can give different perspectives on how we should work to develop our cities. And all the speakers from this year, you can still see them at the H22 website. So if you go to h22.se and go to the Summit 2020, all the speakers are there, so you can see them afterwards. And there are also speakers from our organization. There are a couple of Swedish. The summit is in English, but this year we also had an internal track called the management track for all the city managers, and they had one session every day. So those are also there, but they are in Swedish. And actually, you can also see all the speakers from last year when we had the physical event, all the speakers on the main stage, because in 2019 we had over 50 speakers, but we only filmed the main stage. But you can also find through our website or YouTube. So I think we get a lot of, both this year and last year, we have gotten a really, really good response, both on the setup for the event, but also the speakers. So tune in.
Lovely. Thank you. Now, I do remember the Amsterdam presentation and also the MIT one. Those are the ones that sort of particularly, I think, struck a chord with me. And I'm not someone, I don't think, who automatically thinks in terms of digitization. So listening to the different initiatives and what they're doing to make their smart cities smarter was really good. And the one I also particularly liked in the afternoon, it was one of the sort of smaller talks, was about bias in AI. And that was fascinating. So to hear her speaking about the steps that were being taken there and the early mistakes that were being made with bias in AI was quite staggering, and obviously it's something that's being looked at a lot more now, I would say. So yeah, no, I've really enjoyed them both. So thank you. We hear about Helsingborg being used as a test bed for H22 as well. So I wondered whether there are many different sites in Helsingborg that are part of that test bed.
Yeah. So the whole test bed thing connected to the H22 is that we believe that in order to create the future solutions, in order to find out in what way we should develop our city or our city service, we need to test in a small scale. And the things that work, we need to scale up. And the thing that doesn't work, we need to stop doing. So the thing is that as a city, we can't sit and say that we know exactly what things we need to test. But what we do have as a possibility is our entire city. So instead of us saying, okay, we would like to try out a new solution on electric roads, the companies all over the world that want to try out, come to us. We say that if you have an idea, if you have an initiative and you need a city to test it in, come to us and we will see if it's possible for you to test it here. So in fact, I would say that the whole city of Helsingborg is a test bed. But then there are, of course, different sites where different tests are clustered. For example, we have our landfill that isn't a landfill anymore. It's an industrial innovation park, or it's a industrial circularity park, where different companies can come together and test circularity solutions. So that is one type of test bed. Another test bed can be within the elderly care, where we at one elderly home can test different solutions and so on. So there are different sites, but there are also possibilities to test out if there's not a site. And this can be quite fluffy and hard to understand how this is managed. But that's actually why my team also exists, because we are the entrance to the city in this perspective. So if I have an idea, a solution, or something I would like to test, it's very easy to take contact with us in the H22 team, and we will make sure that the right people gets connected to each other.
Yeah, you're a real gateway in that respect, aren't you? I think to the rest of the city. Yeah, fantastic. Sometimes it's a bit nerve-wracking for people who don't speak much Swedish if they want to perhaps get involved with different initiatives in the city. Does it matter with H22 if they have an idea and they'd like to do something but they don't speak Swedish?
I would say that it doesn't matter. The H22 initiative, we usually say that we have two languages. We speak in both Swedish and English. So everything, for example, on the H22 site is both in Swedish and English, and our social media is in Swedish and in English and so on. And when you get in contact with our team, we all speak both languages. Sometimes, of course, since Helsingborg is a Swedish city, everything will not be in Swedish all the time, but we will, of course, try to help out and find a way forward. So I would say don't let the language be a hinder. See it as a possibility instead. And we will see how we can work together.
Good, thank you. That's great. Okay. And, looking ahead to next year, to 2022, at the moment in COVID times, it's quite hard to imagine lots of people visiting Helsingborg next summer.
Yeah, but I think, so of course we're in the middle of a pandemic, and this pandemic was not there when we started the work, but hopefully we are getting out on the other side also soon, I hope. Of course, we're following this pandemic very closely, and we are trying to find different ways to handle the City Expo depending on what situation we are in next year. We are still working with the perspective that we can have a physical event and that we can gather people and that people can be able to travel to Helsingborg and to Sweden. Of course, if we're in a different situation in the summer, if we're in the same situation that we're now in the summer, maybe we need to see what else we need to adjust. But of course, we're following it closely. But to be able to produce a physical event next year, we need to have the mindset that it will be possible, but we will of course adapt to the situation.
Thank you. Okay, good. So I'm just going to ask you one last question. H22 has a huge remit. It's very wide. How do you manage to keep on top of it all?
That's a good question. But first of all, I think the most important thing is that we're so many people doing this together. This is a joint work with the people from both the municipal organization, but also from academia and from different kind of companies and organizations and so on, and the citizens. And I think it's not possible to have control over every detail, but it's possible to be on top of things in an overall perspective. And then there are so many fantastic people working with this. So it's our collective, our joint effort that is making us going through. And of course, being structured and having plans and being able to adjust as we go along the way. But it is a big project and it takes a whole lot of work.
It's a huge project, that's for sure. Yeah. Well done. Okay, is there anything else that we haven't covered that you wanted to mention?
I can just finish up with saying that if you're sitting and listening to this and you are more interested in H22, want to get involved or in any way want to get in contact with us, it's very easy. Visit our website or send an email. We want H22 to be the citizens of our city to feel an ownership for this. So join us on this fantastic journey.
Thank you. That's fantastic, Soraya. Thank you so much. I think that's been really interesting, and I hope it's really helped an awful lot of people understand more about what's going on, and perhaps they'll be inspired as well to come and do something. All right, good. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Nice talking to you.
It was good.
Thanks,
care.
Soraya. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks again to Soraya for explaining everything about H22. If you'd like to find out more, please look up the H22 website, h22.se, where, as Soraya mentioned, there's information in both English and Swedish. And thank you for listening. We hope you found this episode interesting. As always, thank you to the Vision Fund for their support in making this podcast series possible. If you'd like to know more about HIC, you can find us at www.hiconnections.eu. On social media, we're on Instagram at HIConnections, and on Facebook and LinkedIn, we're at Helsingborg International Connections. We'd love to hear what you think, so please get in touch. Please join us next time when we'll be talking to Parul Ghosh of This Is Hobege to find out what inspired her to set up her website for the citizens of Helsingborg.